Good day, folks, and welcome to review number 71. Today we're going to look at the first Beast toy that I've bought in quite a while. It's a look at the Transformers Prime Beast Hunters Deluxe Ripclaw. So starting off looking at the packaging, we see that Ripclaw comes packaged in Beast mode in the what's pretty standard Transformers Prime Beast Hunters card back here. It's got the new Beast Hunters logo underneath the Transformers Prime logo, and all of the Beast Hunters figures have had Predacon on the left-hand side of the card. The back side of the packaging features Ripclaw in Robot and Beast mode, as well as a even more abbreviated paragraph up here at the top than usual, and then you also have the Transformers Prime logo down here at the bottom. The tech specs are located on the right hand side of the packaging, and one thing to point out with Ripclaw's packaging here is because of the Beast mode being a little more unusual, they've really widened the packaging, the bubble for this figure. I believe some of the other Predacon figures have something similar, but then if you go to some of the other deluxes, they're back more towards the more narrow packaging. But it's odd to see this big of a bubble on a card. So here we have Ripclaw in her Beast mode, and particularly, I really like the looks of this one. Of all the Beast Hunters Predacons that I've seen so far, this design, I don't know, particularly attracted me. The colors work right. The overall form looks good. So I really like the Beast mode here. And I'm going to probably be a little redundant here because I'm going to go over some of these joints are used in both modes, but I think it's important to go over articulation for both the Beast mode and the Robot mode. So we'll start off. First, the Beast head is ball jointed here, so you've got nice articulation there. The jaw is hinged, so you've got good articulation there. You've got a ball jointed shoulder here, hinged elbow, hinged wrist or ankle there. The wings are hinged. Then you have a ball jointed hip, hinged knee here, and then actually multiple hinges there, kind of with a long ankle joint there. Then you've got ball jointed ankles down here at the bottom of the feet, and then also inside the tail there is a piece of rubberized plastic in here, and it gives you it flexes and allows you to articulate the tail. Now that does concern me a little bit, with being rubberized plastic, that over time that may deteriorate, and years down the road we may have some problems with figure losing its tail. But it does provide some good amount of motion here for the and you also have a hinge kind of in the connecting point there for kind of a striking action, which also point out the gimmick here with this figure. You've got this open claw at the end of the tail, and then when you hit the center of it, that claw closes down. So it's kind of a I don't know, kind of a grappler, almost scorpion-like, but it's kind of a neat gimmick. And speaking of gimmicks, one of the things that they have done with the Beast Hunters line is they have used this kind of swirled plastic where you've got different colors swirled into each other. And I've got kind of mixed feelings about that. In some places, it works. Like I really like the way it ended up looking on the chest plate here, but then there's other places where it doesn't uh, work quite as well. If you look at the tail pieces on my particular figure, you've got one piece here with almost no swirling, so it's almost just purely that blue plastic, and then the piece right behind it has quite a bit of the yellow swirled into it, almost makes it look green. So, two adjacent different pieces, different, I don't know if they came from a different batch or what happened, but because of the way that swirling effect was applied, uh, looks like you've got a wrong or a different piece in there. So in that case, it didn't work. But like some of the places here on the wings, it looks like it's weathering. So that kind of looks good. But again, the inconsistency with it, where my chest plate, I do like the look of it there. Someone may not, and you can look for a different figure and you can find a completely different pattern on it. So again, it's one of those mixed bags where I think it can look good if done right, but it can go very wrong as well. Another issue I have with this figure, and this is by no means a deal breaker, it's just I I think provides a little too much of a contrast, is the difference in the plastics between the upper jaw and the lower jaw here. The whole upper portion of the head is a real soft rubberized plastic, and it's kind of real stark contrast because the bottom jaw is a nice hard ABS type plastic. So you've got a real solid piece, and because of the way it's done too. Now this metal on the blue on here is actually painted on, and it's got a real nice metallic look to it. But then this soft rubbery stuff is real flat looking. So you've got a stark difference between the upper jaw and the lower jaw as far as coloring. And then besides the whole fact that with the rubberized plastic, will she still have an upper part of her head in 20 years? We'll have to wait and see. Now, on to Ripclaw's transformation. Now, one downside to many beast figures that I've found is that their transformation typically just involves standing them up and going from 4 legs to 2. And at its heart, the Ripclaw figure is basically the same thing, but with a few new tricks. In particular, I like how the back legs collapse down, as well as how the head and neck pieces fold away. For the most part, everything on this figure snaps into place pretty securely, with the exception of those neck and shoulder pieces. The neck pieces tend to float over the shoulders, and they need to do this for posability, but in the end, they really don't have any defined position in robot mode. Overall, though, the transformation is clean and simple. Nothing to write home about, but really nothing wrong with it either. And here we have Ripclaw in her robot mode. And I'm a big fan of this robot mode too. I think it looks great. It's just a neat looking figure. But moving on to articulation here, start off with the head. The head is on a ball joint, but because of this collar around her neck, the head movement is pretty limited. And you also have the shoulders on a ball joint there. Again, though, this cover kind of limits a little bit of the movement there, but you can play around with that. You've got elbow joint there. You have a swivel at the elbow. Wrist articulation, just a hinge there to give a little in and out movement, and that's part of the transformation. There's no other wrist articulation there, but then you got ball jointed hips, hinged knee, ball jointed ankles. Wings are still hinged there, and then the tail as we had before. Now, one of the cooler parts of the beast mode, unfortunately, turns out to be kind of a hindrance here in the robot mode. With this massive tail here, you almost have to have it down to keep her standing up. I can almost get her to balance when the tail is up like this, but the problem I have is the knee joints on mine are just soft enough that you have to get it just right. Otherwise, those knees start to bend from the weight of the tail. So I've just kind of found just use the tail to balance her out. And while the tail is pretty cool in beast mode, it's kind of a pain in the butt here in robot mode. One other minor little detail here that I think is missing from this figure is something to complement this head sculpt. The head sculpt, I think, looks great. I think this is just an awesome looking face, but there is no light piping whatsoever. And I think they could have done something here to have incorporated some light piping and really made those eyes pop, especially with some of the light piping we've seen in recent figures. This figure would definitely be one to put some red eyes in there and really make that face look even more menacing. One other aspect of this toy that I like, it's kind of a fan mode. I don't know if other people have done this or not, but is to leave the beast head and these shoulder parts up and then transform the rest of it into robot mode, and you get kind of this half humanoid, half beast kind of creature here that I think really looks kind of cool. So this is a kind of a little fan mode that I particularly like. So just there's a few other options here with these figures than just what's always printed in the instructions, and it's always kind of fun to find those modes. The Transformers Prime Beast Hunters Ripclaw is probably one of the better figures I've seen from this current line. Both the Beast mode and the Robot mode look really good. Posability is hampered slightly by that giant tail, but for the most part it's pretty good too. There's nothing really special about the transformation, but it is just what I want. Simple, fun, and intuitive. Ripclaw ends up being just a good Transformers toy.